Yo, what is up guys? Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Hopefully you guys are doing good. Hopefully you guys are feeling well today. So as some of you guys may know, WoW Classic Season of Mastery, in other words, Fresh, has been announced by Blizzard on the 30th of September, which is, as of today, yesterday. They have announced some pretty interesting changes. Actually, some pretty big changes now that I really think about it, right? And we're gonna go through this real fast here, guys, and we're gonna see what it is all about, okay? What I'm gonna assume is they're gonna go down a direction of sort of like a seasonal gameplay, as you would have maybe in perhaps Diablo, or you would have in Path of Exile, where every few months or every year or so, you would have a new season with fresh content where everybody starts at the same level. And I assume this is sort of like the direction that they're gonna try to go into, like make it like a sort of a replayable experience, right? And with this replayable experience, they have also introduced some changes that are perhaps gonna be a little bit different or gonna be made in a different way or so, but the first iteration of the changes that we currently have are as follows. So, we will launch new Classic realms for Season of Mastery. These realms will invite new and current Classic players to begin fresh at level 1 for a complete reset of WoW Classic's content, starting again at the very beginning of the World of Warcraft saga. What difference is in WoW Classic Season of Mastery? As with the first season of release of WoW Classic, we're planning 6 content release phases. In WoW Classic Season of Mastery, however, phase unlocks will be faster. We're planning for a 12-month cadence with phases unlocking roughly every couple of months. Here's the current outline for the 6 phases. So as there's 6 phases in Classic WoW, and there's obviously 12 months, this means that we will have an average of 2 months for each phase. I think for a new release for a fresh, this sort of is very interesting, because if you are a person like myself that has played a lot of private servers, you know, as well as I probably do, most servers die off whenever AQ40 gets released. Whenever Black Warcraft has been farmed for a long time, AQ40 gets released, the war effort has completed, and people clear AQ40. Thereafter, the server dies off, and a new server rises, and people flock to that. AQ40 is just a long phase. If you played Classic WoW, maybe you enjoyed the AQ40, that's fair enough. If you liked that, that is awesome for you. Really, really happy for you. But for a lot of people, myself included, the long 6 months phase with AQ40 farming just is a long drag. And I think that the fact that they're slimming down the phases a little bit more, making it a little bit more fast, is a good thing. Is 1 year a little bit too fast? It could be, yeah, it could be a little bit fast, but I think it's because they're trying to go with this more of a seasonal thing instead of having it like a long one-time experience sort of thing. So if they want to do the seasonal thing with new changes and new things all the time, it needs to be a little bit faster, right? And a lot of the changes that they're implementing is also like corresponding to this as well. The first phase obviously will be Molten Core, Onyxia, Maraudon, and we will also have PvP honor system and battlegrounds from phase 1. This is something I kind of think they should have had in Classic. Honestly, I really think they should have had the honor system at release, because it would make the ranking more interesting with the leveling implemented with it as well. There's one thing though that is a little bit interesting about this, is that the ranking in of itself, so I ranked to 14 in Classic. The ranking, if you are bracket 1, which means that you get the most honor, you get the most possible ranking points you can get every single week. The entire ranking process will take 3 months, or 13 weeks rather, right? So 13 weeks is the entire process if you get the most possible ranking points every week, right? A lot of people won't be able to get that. And the rewards you get from this system with the faster release dates of these phases is going to be a little bit bad, right? Because is it really going to be worth farming the honor for that? Is it really going to be worth ranking for 13 weeks for something that'll be an upgrade for a few weeks perhaps? I mean, we'll have to see, right? Because but it definitely is something worth considering, that the ranking rewards won't be as good as they were in Classic, because you won't be able to use them for as long, right? But that comes to play with as well with the faster phases. So Diamol, Azurgos, Kazakh, then we have Blackmoon Lair, Darkmoon Fair, and the Darkmoon Dex, Sul Group, Green Dragons, AQ40, and then Naxxramas. So this is sort of the same thing we had as in Classic WoW, except the PvP honor system, which is a lot earlier this time, right? It kind of does make sense if they want the game to be a little bit faster, I suppose, right? The raid boss update. So this is a little bit of an interesting one. These next few things we're gonna go over here real fast. I'm gonna give you guys my thoughts about it at the current state of what they're in. And if you guys have any things you want to add, feel free to leave a comment. Feel free to let your thoughts be sharing as well, so we can get some discussions about this, right? Because I think it's a pretty important thing to discuss when it's the fresh coming out, right? The original release of WoW Classic was made to recreate the difficulty and challenge of patch Watchpoint 12 with the original World of Warcraft release. While we strive to bring a faithful recreation of that release, many raid encounters turned out to be easier than the first time around. Players simply were more experienced and prepared, and patch updates greatly increased player power. Yeah, so first of all, players are just way better. There's way more knowledge. It is a solved game. So obviously the raids are going to be easier because people just know what to do. It's not really that the raids are easier, it's just that the players are better and we know more stuff. We also in Classic WoW ran on the finalized patch of gear progression, which means that we had a lot more gear that they didn't have back in Classic WoW, like in Vanilla WoW, I would say. So that definitely did make a big impact as well. Like a lot of the gear that we had in Classic was not stuff that people would have in the very release of Vanilla WoW, right? So that also made a big impact. With that in mind, we're planning on a few changes to make those early raid bosses pack a bit more punch and attempt to capture the original challenge they presented. Those changes include currently, but are not limited to, world buffs like Rallying Cry, the Dragon Slayer, and others disabled in raid instances, restoring mechanics that were removed early on to some raid bosses, no buff debuff limits, up to 16 debuffs in WoW Classic, and increased health on bosses to offset player buffs and remove the debuff limit. So, first things first. The world buffs. This is an interesting one because this affects a lot more than people would think. World buffs are not just a raid thing. World buffs for a lot of people in Classic WoW is the sole reason they play the game, right? Not necessarily for the raid logging and like, you know, raiding with them inside of the raid, but also like the outworld, right? Like the whole like collecting buffs with the guild buffs and raids and everything like that, getting that, collecting that, making sure you're safe when you run to the places and stuff like that. So removing the world buffs is actually a very big change. It's not just for the PvE factor, it's for a lot of other factors as well, right? I'm a little bit torn between this. I think it would make for a very interesting game without world buffs when it comes to PvE content. Like it would, like the thing that world buffs does is that in terms of raid is that they make rogues and warriors incredibly strong. Like rogues and warriors, as you guys know if you play Classic WoW, dominate the DPS meters and the damage in raids by a long shot, and that's because they benefit the most from the buffs. And removing these world buffs will make like other classes a lot more viable, with also removing the debuff slot as well. So classes like, you know, Shadow Priest can multi-dot, you know, maybe like Balance Druids can do Moonfires and whatever, Insect Swarm perhaps. I don't really know what the best strat would be for that, but there is a lot more viability in a lot of classes, right? I don't know, like there's lots of things that it's gonna open up for a lot more specs to be maybe good in raids, with the whole nerf to melees and making the debuff slots unlimited, which means like rogues can use deadly poisons, Moonfire can be used, multi-dotting if you're a warlock, Shadow Priests as well. There's lots of things that's gonna get opened up in that regard. And I don't know which mechanics that have been removed early on to some raid bosses they're going to restore. I know there is some bosses that were nerfed, like some other mechanics, like Bloodlord Lashlayer had some things nerfed on it with some threat wipes and stuff like that. But I think this whole thing, it's a very different game we're going to be getting, and if they do decide to go in this direction, I really hope that we can maybe even take it further into like a Classic Plus thing, right? Because a Classic Plus thing is something that a lot of people want and would like, and it's something that was very successful for a game like Old School RuneScape, right? They went down this route of like having the community help with the changes and make the game, mold the game into something new and something interesting, right? Because the thing about it is, if you want to do like a seasonal game, you have to make, I mean, you don't have to, but I think for a lot of people, having every season having every season new things in the new seasons makes people want to come back. You know, there is something very good about Classic. Obviously, I've played Classic for a long time, like private servers and everything like that. I've sort of played the whole thing. Having something Classic Plus would make for an interesting game. There's also a lot of things that we haven't explored in Classic WoW that was originally intended, right? Like the Karasan, the Hygel raids. A lot of things were supposed to be in Classic WoW that was just not implemented because of the lack of time or schedule, right? So I think this could be, if they do decide to go down this route, it could be an interesting route, and it could be something very good. But on the other hand, it could also be very bad. It could turn out horribly, and it could completely ruin the game and make it terrible, right? But it's one of those things where, like, if you make these sort of decisions, either you float and you ride the wave, or you sink and you crash, right? So we're gonna have to see which direction it's gonna go and whether or not it's gonna be good or not. The world buffs I'm a little bit torn about. I think it could make for interesting gameplay, but I also do know that a lot of people are going to be very not happy about this. But that's just the thing about the classic WoW, because the community is so tight-knit and because there's so many people wanting to play this game for a long time and so passionate about it. No matter if you change anything about the game, people are gonna get angry or annoyed or whatever, right? It's a hard road to go down if you want to go down a middle road of like making everybody happy, because you can't at the end of the day. It's not possible to make everybody happy in this. It really is. That's really all I gotta say about that for now. The world buff thing, it will be interesting. I was actually a big fan of the Chrono Boon, but we'll have to see when we get more information about this and what they're gonna say about that as well. This is actually the one right now I am the least happy about. The faster leveling. We're planning on increasing experience gains from what they were in the first iteration of WoW Classic. Our current plan is to set them close to what the 1 to 60 rates are in Classic WoW The Burning Crusade, with a bigger focus on quest increases. So, I think Classic WoW, a big part about what makes the game fun to me is the leveling. I think the leveling, gearing up your character, making your character stronger, getting the upgrades, getting new bags, getting new, looting a green item for a chest. That is the essence of what makes an MMO great. The improvement of your character, the journey, getting stronger, and making an improvement upon what you set yourself upon, right? Going from Durator to Barons into Wailing Caverns and becoming a stronger hero, right? Because that's what it's all about, And speeding up this process is gonna make it less memorable, I think. But on the other hand, I do understand why this is happening. Okay, so the main reason that they're doing it is because it's focusing on quest XP, which if you know, boosting is a big part of Classic WoW. A lot of mages are selling boosts and stuff like that, and you could assume that this is sort of to offset the mage boosting, right? So I'm at least very happy that it's with the quest XP focus and not just the mob XP. So it's focusing on getting more people out in the world and questing. With having this game a lot more faster as well, a 1 year cycle instead of being a 1 year and 6 months, I believe it was originally. This also makes it so that the game needs to be a little bit faster. So I do understand that, right? I do get why they're doing it, and I do understand the reasoning behind it. But I still do think that the leveling is such a big part about the game personally. So I'm a little bit torn on this one, guys. I'm not gonna lie. Quality of life updates. In addition, we're planning and introducing certain improvements that weren't in the original WoW Classic, but we can help create a better experience, such as meeting stones converted to summoning stones and increased mining herbalism nodes. Meeting stones, I don't know, there's something special about running to the dungeons, boys. I don't know, and it also kind of makes like warlocks a little bit more cool, right? I guess you could say this is sort of like a really quality of life thing, and it's gonna make people run less about the world, right? Because like as soon as TBC released, guys, people sort of just like stopped. They just unlearned the skill of running to the dungeon, and everybody just waits for a summon. You know what I mean? So summoning stones, I'm not a big fan. Mining and herbalism nodes. Getting mining and herbalism nodes in Classic in the end was absolutely impossible. You could run around in Winterspring for like half an hour and not find a single thorium. So this is kind of good. I get that. Let's just hope that if they do decide to do this, with the whole questing XP and stuff like that, please, for the love of God, fix the bots, man. Like, make sure the bots are handled in some way. Mage boosting and bots is a big problem. It's a big issue, and it ruins the economy and ruins the game. It needs to be handled, I think so. They're also releasing an open beta on the 5th of October, which is currently 4 days from now, from today. And I will obviously be trying that out. I'll be playing it and seeing how it is. And we're going to see how fast the leveling in and stuff like that. And yeah, we're going to see what it's all about, guys. But let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think this is good? Do you guys think this sucks? I hope you guys have a great day. And thank you guys for watching. And we'll see you guys very soon. Peace out. Boop.